This is the new Rimac hypercar, and it's a bit like a Nevera. Yeah, you don't know what a Nevera is, do you? It's a Croatian storm. It's brutal, it's sudden, it's powerful. And that's why Rimac have called this car the Nevera, because it's all of those things. Now in this video, I'm going to give it a jolly good reviewing. And to do that, I'm going to talk you around the exterior, the interior. I'm going to take it for a drive on the road. I'm going to drive it like a hooligan. I'm going to launch it because apparently this is the quickest accelerating production car in the world. But we shall see. Anyway, I'm Matt Watson, and you're watching CarWow. Let's start this video by talking about the price. So the Rimac Nevera starts from €2 million plus taxes. Now, if you're a billionaire and YouTube algorithm has served you this video and you decide to buy one of these, please say that you watched the video from Matt Watson and Rimac will actually give me some commission. I'd really appreciate that. Honestly, they will, so make sure you do that. Alternatively, if you're just a normal person like me and you're thinking about buying an electric car, what I've done, I put a link up there to a really good electric car, one of my favourite ones that you can buy through CarWow, and you can see how much money you can save on that car. Alternatively, after this video, you can simply Google "Help me CarWow." My team and I will help you choose the right car for you and get it for a fair price from one of our trusted dealers. Now let's talk about the design of this car, and you're probably thinking, it's an electric car, thank God Matt isn't going to start poking it with a stick of truth. Well actually, look at this. Matty Rimac has given me my own bespoke carbon fibre Rimac stick of truth, and it actually grades the fakeness of the vent or the exhaust. Look, so if it only goes in this far, it's fake. Then if it goes in that far, could be. There's almost. Yeah, for real, if you're getting all the way into here, and if you can bodge it all the way down there, you get the full-on wow. And for some reason, this also vibrates. Anyway, I did turn it off. Come on. Oh, it's pulsing. Oh, hey, stop. No, there we go. Right, so they give me this stick, so I will be bodging their €2 million hypercar with it. Look at these lights at the back, they're super cool, and they've got actual vents in them which channel airflow, and it is full-on wow. The design of the rear has active aero on it, so obviously this is all carbon fibre, the whole bodywork is carbon fibre. But you've got a lower Venturi tunnel there which can raise and lower depending on what you need for the aero. Also this rear wing will change its angle of attack depending on what driving mode you're in, and it also doubles as an air brake to help slow you down. Nice looking rear end. Get to the side, can we get all the way into wow? Oh, almost, yeah, oh, we get to the wow settings, so that's real. All the vents are real. I don't really need to bodge them, but I will because they've given me my vibrating stick. So these are channeling air into the radiators which cool the rear motors. Now down the side of the car there's this bow tie motif. Can you see that? This shape here, you had that on the Concept 1 as well. And that harks back to 17th century soldiers from Croatia who had these like bow ties. And let me just show you this. So here's a big vent, helps smooth air down the side of the car. And so it goes into the radiators. Let's just see if I can get this in. Oh yeah, look at this. It goes all the way in to the hilt. Really nice wheel design. So you've got 20-inch alloys, center locking nut like on racing cars. It's got a real nice sleek profile. It's not too in your face. It looks good. Let's move around the front. So once again, look, we've got some vents there. You've got the radiators. That's enough stick. Oh wait, there. There's another vent there. So once again, we've got active aero here at the front. So the front splitter can actually lower or raise depending on what's happening to the car. And this, vented in the bonnet, it actually feeds air into the radiators. But if the outside temperature is too hot, like it is today, I might melt in fact, that can close up and then you still need some cooling. So you've actually got an air conditioning unit in there, which then activates to cool the batteries and the motors here at the front. Then of course we've got some LED headlights there which have been completely designed for this car. They are bespoke. What do you reckon to the design? I like it. It looks expensive, it looks unique, it looks special, but it's not like, look at me, I'm a hypercar. It doesn't do that. It's more restrained. Yeah, it's nice. Let me know in the comments anyway, let me know. Now let's talk about the chassis. So this car is completely made out of carbon fibre. It actually has the largest carbon fibre monocoque chassis of any car in the world. Now other manufacturers do a carbon fibre tub, but then they hang off metal subframes. This car doesn't do that. That's all carbon fibre as well. The only metal part are the crash structures at the front and the back. Being carbon fibre, it's super rigid. It's got a structural rigidity of 70,000 Newton meters. Now to put that into perspective, because it probably doesn't mean anything to you unless you're an engineer, a Le Mans LMP1 racer, that has a structural rigidity of just 50,000 Newton meters. This car has double wishbone suspension all round with adaptive dampers, and you can choose between 3 different modes if you wanted, between soft, medium and hard. Also, there's lots of different driving modes which are presets: cruise, sport, track, and so on and so forth, which is kind of cool. Then there's a couple of modes that you can actually customize yourself, and you can mix and match all these different things like throttle response, weight of the steering, just as you like them. Then there's this other feature here where you can control the amount of torque on both axles, so you can alter the amount of torque at the rear axle from 100% all the way down to 0% if you want. And then you can also control the amount of torque at the front axle between 0 and 100 again. It's completely nuts what you can do with this car. And of course it's got torque vectoring, because you've got a motor controlling each wheel, so it can actually send the power and torque where it is needed. So when you're going into a corner, the car will actually brake the inside wheels using the motors and accelerate the outside wheels to help you turn around. And this means that you can drive it like a moron if you want to. It's about time I drove it like a moron, I think. People say electric cars can't be fun, so Rimac have engineered in a drift mode to this car. So I turn this and I go into drift mode, and apparently it can mimic a limited slip differential by controlling each wheel. It's supposedly easy to do, but I'm not sure. Let's find out. Oh my god. It's actually dead easy. It's too easy. Kill the tyres. Yeah, it does it. Yeah, yeah. It definitely drifts. Feel sorry for the tyres though. All that torque going through them. Poor buggers. R.I.P. tyres. Rest in peace. Now let's talk about the brakes, because this is very interesting. So you have 390mm carbon ceramic brakes at the front and at the back. You've got 6 piston calipers at the front and at the back. But then you've got the regen braking, and it's not like regen braking on any other electric car, because it can regen brake up to 300 kilowatts. What does that mean? So 300 kilowatts in old money is about 400 horsepower, which is the same maximum horsepower roughly as a BMW M2. So that's like having a BMW M2 attached to you by a rope and pulling you backwards. So the regen can actually brake up to 0.6 G, and the car's maximum braking G-force is 1.2 G. So a lot of that braking is just done through the regen, and they've done it in such a way that you will not notice the point at which they blend in the friction brakes with the regen braking. Yeah, it's a load of torque, isn't it? So like, just brake test it. Let's see how long it takes this car to stop from 70 miles an hour. So ignore the kilometers an hour my reading, it just has to be in that for reasons. Here we go, here we go, here we go. Whew. There we go, 43 meters. This Nevera is a car that is just full of records. So the battery pack, that's a record. 120 kilowatt hours, the largest battery pack fitted to any production EV. And you charge it by putting up this flap here, and then you have your ports there. So that's your AC and that's your DC. Now this car can actually charge really quickly. It can charge up to 500 kilowatts. I put these in wrong, it's a little bit of a puzzle. 500 kilowatts. It will go from 0 to 80% full in just 18 minutes. But we are talking about it in the future, because there are no 500 kilowatts available to the public right now, but they are coming. So if you go to a normal 50 kilowatt charger, it will actually take you 2 hours to charge this car. So you may as well just send one of your staff to go charge it while you go and do something much more important, like make another billion on Bitcoin, I don't know. The battery itself, how they've positioned it in the car, is very interesting. You see, normally with electric cars, they just put the batteries at the bottom like that, underneath, like a skateboard design. The problem with that is that it makes it a little bit awkward to get in. Not in this car, because what they've done, they've actually put the majority of the batteries are there behind it, almost like a mid-engine car, and then there's more batteries in the spine there, and some just in the footwell as well. As a result, yeah, it's actually all right, nice and low. It's what you want from a hypercar. In fact, there's another thing to note. Hypercars, usually an absolute arse to get in and out of because of the huge sills. But despite the fact you've got this cutout in the roof and these amazing doors, the sill isn't all that fat, so you can easily get in and out in a dignified way and without banging your head. Look at that. It's like they thought about everything. Okay, inside the Nevera. It's a hypercar, which is very, very futuristic. Yet inside it just feels like a normal hypercar, if there is such a thing. So the dash design is all simple, nicely laid out. The driving position's good. The material quality is excellent. Apart from one thing, these air vents here, they feel a little bit plasticky, but exposed carbon fiber here, lovely leather, Alcantara. It's great, and the seats are comfortable, and you can actually move them by using the screen here. So you press button on the screen, up, down, and you do the same with the steering wheel as well, in and out. So it's all very Tesla-y. It's a bit annoying though that you have to control all functions pretty much through this screen. So the ventilation system, you have to do it through this screen. And that brings me on to the infotainment system. It's completely their own design, so they've not bought it in. It's all right, you know, you can swipe through your different menus. It's got all the functions you need. It will have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. My only complaint about it and the digital driver's display is that it's all very dark. They've gone for like a dark theme. I'd have preferred a lighter, brighter theme, but I guess that is less distracting when you're doing like 250 miles an hour or whatever. Your passenger will know that you're doing those kind of speeds as well, because they've got this display there to frighten them a little bit. Now, they haven't forgot about practicality in this car, so check this out, right? Under here you have place for your mobile phone, and you'll have wireless charging, and there's a USB-C's there. There's some more storage here behind the screen where you can forget where you left stuff. We have some cup holders here, which apparently have been engineered to be able to hold a bottle in place, even though it's a bit wobbly, when you're drifting and cornering at high G. It's been tested, it has. And then there's the smallest glove box I've ever encountered in my live testing cars. Look at this. There it is. It is more of a document wallet. Now let's go on to talk about the boot. Now don't worry, I am going to launch this car soon, because really you're probably here to see how quick it is from 0 to 60 and over the standing quarter mile. But first, let's do the boot. Underneath here is 100 litres of luggage capacity, which isn't all that much, is it? And because of the shape of this, you're going to need bespoke luggage from Rimac to really make the most of all this area. You wondering what's under here? Well, yeah, you thought it was going to be some extra storage, but no, it's taken up by your first aid kit and your tyre compressor. Really, if you want to go on a holiday in this car, you're going to need to send a support car along with you. And that brings me on to 5 annoying things about the Rimac Nevera. Being an electric car, obviously there's a frunk, right? Because there is on every single electric car. No, you just got radiators and stuff. So no frunk here, I'm afraid. So that 100 litres really is your lot. Because you've got radiators at the back to cool the rear motors, you can hear the fluid circulating in them. Listen to this. Now you could view it as it sounding like you're near a peaceful stream that's flowing. Alternatively, it does sound a little bit like the car's having a long wee. Although these doors are super cool, you kind of wish that they had soft close, because you tend to not shut them properly. Look, come on. No. Third time lucky. That's better. Rimac has done a lot of work to make this car as light as possible. Obviously there's loads of carbon fibre, but the original prototype actually had a 2-speed gearbox on the rear axle like the Porsche Taycan does, but they switched to a single-speed gearbox because that saved 100 kilos. Despite all this though, there's no getting away from the fact that batteries add weight, and this has one big battery. As a result, it weighs 2,150 kilos. It's a bit heavy. Something like a Chiron comes in at under 2,000 kilos. This is a super luxurious hypercar, but you do get quite a lot of noises in the cabin. The main reason for that is that those noises aren't drowned out by an engine. So here's an example. I'm going to turn the air conditioning on now. You hear that? It's like someone's drilling somewhere in the distance. Now, the reason you hear that is because the actual unit for the air conditioning is so close to you, and yeah, no engine drowning it out. It's not all negative though. Here's 5 good things about this car. Everything on this car is bespoke. There is nothing that is on or used on any other car or off the shelf, apart from the tyres, which are off the shelf tyres, and the actual ventilation system behind the dash is from an Audi R8. Everything else has been made specifically for this car. For instance, even these dials here, they've been billeted from aluminium specifically for Rimac, and these little gauges within them specifically for Rimac. One slight thing about these dials though, they are a little bit stiff to operate, though Rimac is working on that to make sure everything is tip-top for when the car goes to customers. Rimac has tried to make this car feel like it's from a high volume manufacturer, in the same way that a Bugatti Veyron feels just as well sorted as a Golf, whereas other hypercars feel a little bit more cottage industry. As a result, they've crash tested the heck out of this car. This car is fitted with 6 cameras, and they are used for your parking. Look, that's all very handy. However, you'll notice there's another camera up there. Is that because the authorities are watching you? Well, no, it's because actually all the cameras on this car can double as action cameras. So if you want to record yourself as you're driving a lap, you can use those. You don't have to faff around mounting annoying GoPros like us plebs. This panel on the car has 3 LED strips, and they change colour depending on which mode you're in. And if you want, when you buy this car, you can have it set up so you can choose the colours that those are. So if you're from the UK like me, you could have red, white and blue. This car has been homologated to be used all over the world. Now, some cars aren't, like Koenigseggs and Paganis. They're only homologated for certain regions like Europe or the US. Whereas this, doesn't matter where you live in the world, you can have it in your country so that you don't have to keep it somewhere like Europe or the US and then fly there to use your car. So that's good. Finally, there's the motors, which is what we're all here for. So you've got 4 motors, 1 for each wheel. Each has their own gearbox. Now the motors at the back are twice as powerful as the motors at the front, but combined you have 1,914 horsepower and 2,360 newton meters of torque. So let's launch it. Okay, let's do this. Dead simple. Left foot on the brake, floor the throttle, release the brake. Blimey. You're 62.23. That's quick. That's very quick. 4 mile, 8.85. Do you know what? I've done this even quicker, but it was in a drag race against a Ferrari. And if you want to see that video, click on the pop-out banner up there to go watch what happened when I raced this against a Ferrari SF90 Stradale, and the time I got when I launched it in that race. It's even more impressive, it's nuts. Okay, let's see what this Rimac Nevera is like to drive out on the open road. First thing to note is the suspension. So this is a hypercar, yet because I've got the dampers in their softest setting, it actually deals with bumps really well. Occasionally when you go over a big bump, you do hear a knocking sound. That's actually the steering rack. One of the things about this car is that it's a pre-series car, so it's not the finished deal that customers will get. It's apparently 80% completed, but there's things they're working on like the steering rack. There's other things they're working on like noise and vibration, so they'll add soundproofing to it. So at the moment when you're driving along and you go over surfaces which are covered in stones, you get lots of rattles around the wheel arch. It's almost like you're driving a racing car. Another thing that I think is surprisingly good is the visibility. You can really position where the car is because you have the wings to guide you, and the bonnet does drop away quite sharply. These side mirrors are absolutely massive. They protrude quite a way out so you can really see down the sides of the car. And the view out the rear view mirror is actually really good as well. One thing they've nailed on this car, really have nailed, and that is the throttle pedal. With a high performance car like this, it could be just super scary, like you just flex your right foot and boom, you're just off. But this is really good. It does build power, and it's great the way they do it with quite a long throttle pedal. So you can drive it quite easily without worrying about just suddenly accelerating into someone's bumper. It's easy to just cruise around and just pick up speed a bit like a normal car, or to accelerate like, yeah, that's fine, or that's really fast. Oh my God, we're going something now, and then it's, oh my God! Because it's actually traction limited, it feeds in the power, so you get this sense of the power building. Now I'm going to move it into sports mode, and now the throttle response is really fast. As you go through the battery though, you do get a cut off in power, so once you fall below 20% battery, you do get the amount of power that you have available reduced. Still, even when it's below 20%, there's so much power in this thing. You're never wanting for power, you never ever are. Now let's talk about the brakes. So I find they're a little bit over assisted when you first touch the pedal, but then when you're deep into the pedal, they're a bit under assisted and a bit more like a race car. I'd rather have it the other way around. So less initial bite, but more assistance as you press the brake pedal harder. Let me just check out the turning circle on the car because this is important, obviously. Safe to go. That's actually all right. So what's the steering like? Well, it's responsive, it's quick, puts the car exactly where you want it. The only thing is that I sometimes find it a little bit unnatural the way it loads up in a corner. I'd like it to load up a little bit more because the signals I'm getting from my bottom through the chassis don't quite correlate to what I'm feeling through my hands to the wheel, but that is something they're still working on. This car hardly leans at all in the bends, it really stays flat, loads of grip, and you've got that torque vectoring to help turn you into a corner and get the car rotating. Now I was told that this car's ESC isn't working. I do not have stability control. I'm driving a €2 million hypercar without stability control. Yet I'm not worried. I've got confidence in it. I just feel like it's going to go around the corner, no problems at all. Hopefully I don't Richard Hammond it though. There's a big drop down there. Big drop. So then, what's my final verdict on the new Rimac Nevera? Should you avoid it? Should you consider it? Should you shortlist it? Or should you just go right ahead and buy it? Well, this is probably the most irrelevant conclusion I've ever given on a CarWow video. Really, for most people, you're best off avoiding this car. Reason being that once you've driven this and felt the performance, every other car is going to feel a little bit on the slow side. However, if you want the fastest accelerating car in the world and you've got €2 million spare, go right ahead and buy it. Knock yourself out, you lucky sod. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please give it a like. Click on those windows there to watch some more videos, and if you click on that box there, you can... what can you do? What can you do this time? You can go for a